G'day everybody, Andrew Maher here. Welcome to The Blueprint again, proudly brought to you by our friends at Hyundai. Joining me once again, former champion skipper of the football club, gun centre half forward he was, Mark Maclure joins us as he always does on The Blueprint. Great to have you here again and great to be here again, and nice to be here 3-3 rather than 1-3 as we were last time we gathered.
Well, 3 in a row is a lot better than we were 3 weeks ago. So played against Melbourne, and we should have beaten Melbourne quite comfortably than we did. Was watching them actually was like practising to be perfect. That's what I watched the other day, and understand exactly how much they're improving. And we've got a bit of vision here coming up soon to show a bit of what's happening in the footy club and why the actual side is starting to kick some scores.
I like the fact that you say that. It was a couple of weeks ago that Mick Malthouse was pressed about where they were at, wins and losses wise, and he kept stressing the word process. And a lot of people in football like to throw that word at you as a cop-out and as an excuse for poor form, poor results. The results were okay. The form was okay. The results weren't forthcoming, but he stressed process. And it looks like they're starting to just get some clearer idea as to what he wants them to do.
I just think they're getting better. I mean, they were competitive against every side, and probably should have won 2 of the. Should have beaten Richmond quite comfortably, you know, and that was the one that was a killer. The rest have been absolutely fantastic. So this week we move on to St Kilda. And St Kilda's a big game for us. They smashed us last year. They bashed us up. They put us into a world of pain, and from that moment we never recovered.
It's a big game on Monday night. Sellers, our former skipper Chris Judd, has just re-signed with the Blues for the 2014 season. We caught up with him yesterday. Is it going to be a 1 year at a time approach from this point forth?
Yeah, I think so. I think that just sort of suits both parties really. You know, you certainly can't take your football for granted when you get to 30 and over, and you know, it's I guess safer from the club perspective to just do things 1 year at a time. So both parties are happy with how it's worked out.
Was there ever a prospect that you wouldn't finish your career here?
No, never. No, look, I've changed clubs once before, and it's a pretty full-on thing to go through, and certainly not something I'd do again.
It's great news for all Carlton supporters that it's going to be that 1 year at a time approach from Chris Judd, and who knows what he's going to do in terms of the amount of money we pay him to try and attract other people to the club. But it's still a really young midfield that he's got around him. Take McLean out of the picture. The role that he's got to play for the next 3 or 4 years remains really, really important.
And he's a house husband as well.
That's right.
Since Beck's done the news, I mean, right, what's going on? He's got to feed the baby, he's got to do all that. Change nappies, all that. That's what he loves to do. You know? But he's been terrific, no doubt about that. He's paid his way in loads of stuff, because he's trained our guys on how to play football and how to manage yourself as a person. And I think you'll never get that experience from... they never had that experience before, and now they've got it. I think it's terrific. And
provided he stays interested and stimulated and keen, all those things, there's no reason anybody doesn't let him down. There's no reason he can't play a changing role for the football club for the next 3 or 4 years.
No doubt they will. He'll play forward.
Yep.
He'll push forward at times, and they'll open up the whole forward line and leave him on his own. And would you like to plant him that day?
No, I don't think
No, you wouldn't.
Would.
And no one else would either. So there's lots of things they can do with him, and there's a longevity to him as well.
Well, let's hope that he's going to be playing more often alongside Jared Waite than not. He's underutilised in terms of a footballer. We'll have a look at what he did against Melbourne from a playing perspective. But before we get to that, your thoughts on the act that sees him miss a week?
Look, I like aggressive forwards. Tell you now, because they usually get bashed up, but I love aggressive forwards who really want to have a crack at everyone. But that was stupidity at its highest, and he copped a week for it. And every time he gets actually knocked off or gets reported, it's all for menial, stupid things. What is going on in that brain of his?
It's a good question.
Seriously.
He's missed over 100. He's missed nearly 100 games since he debuted. He debuted in the same year. He's drafted in the same year as Chris Judd.
This is what he can do. This is what I want. This is what we want to talk about. This is what he brings back to the side. His movement of the ball and his angles that he runs there. He should have ran at a 45-degree angle. This is straight at the player and takes it at the highest point. That's what you want to see from your forwards. It stretches the opposition. Again, he's on the lead. And what it does as well is opens up space behind that you don't see. And we'll see some of that action in a minute. And then he's over the top of the others as well there. So, look, he is... see the angle he leads out there, that 45... drive, opens up space behind him. There's players coming to the right spot, to the front of the pack.
This
really good stuff.
The hang there was, it was right in front of me where I was watching that from.
And
the
high.
hang was great.
And he takes it right at the top point.
And it is the dimension that we don't have. It completes the forward line. You can have Sean Hampson being that second long target, or Matthew Cruiser when he comes back into the side, but he is the polished article when it comes to being that in between the little blokes and the really big blokes. He's such an important player for the club.
He's very important. I thought he'd play on a wing, but obviously hasn't got enough fitness to do that at this stage. But he's actually kicking. He'll get better. He was poor last week, I thought, with his kicking. Had plenty of easy shots, blew a few of them, kicked a couple. But gee whiz, he had a hand in a lot.
What did you make of Sean Hampson's game, just before we get on to the next item for discussion?
It's a very unusual game. I might add it. Sometimes he hasn't got a clue what he's doing. Then all of a sudden he clunked 6 or 7 marks, which I was really pleased for him. And I think our whole crowd were too. They were giving him a bit of a roar, and I thought that was great. And I'm sure he enjoyed that because he was a bit average early. Look, he's a handy player, but he shouldn't have to think too much. Seriously, give it off to someone who can kick it, do all the things that you do, take a mark, and you know what? Don't think, just give to someone who can run and give it. And you know what? And you'll be a handy player for this footy club.
And you
play your role.
And the part of the role he's got to play is to bring the ball down. He never gets outmarked. That is the one thing you know about him. And if he can bring the ball to ground, it just opens up the avenue for these two fellas.
This is the dangerous part of the Carlton footy side now. And we'll talk about Mick with the 3 small forwards with Yarran, Betts and Garlett. Well, just have a watch of this. It is frightening. If you get the ball inside 50, they just swarm in numbers and they kill you. And
can we throw Dennis Armfield into the next two
Armfield as well?
Yeah.
There they are there. There's the 3 of them there. Now, Armfield's with them as well. And there's Juddy backing up as well with pace. So the enormous pace in that area has caused a problem for opposition sides, and it will continue. Have a look at these 3 again. And Murph gets on the end of this at the end and finishes it off. But they work well together. They understand what they're doing now. Their role is to keep the ball in the forward line. And young Curnow as well, who gets a hand on some of this stuff as well. Eddie Betts.
It's everybody playing it's everyone playing their role, isn't it? That's all you want. You know?
And I think that's what Mick's bought. He said, this is what you do. You don't have to be the star. And Curnow's not a star. No. But you know what? If he gets his 20 a game and he picks up 5 or 6 tackles, does his role, beats his man,
sits on the bloke he's got to play on.
You love him.
Mark Murphy's the other one who has turned a bit of a personal corner in recent weeks. Your mate David King, who works with us on SEN and you on Fox Footy, a couple of weeks ago was pretty critical of Murphy's defensive side of his game.
Good.
And since then we have seen a turnaround. The numbers speak for themselves in terms of his defensive and pressure acts. Yeah. We've seen a real response.
Yeah, and I love that because, we don't always get it right. Geez, you play some bad games sometimes, and plenty have done it. He had a poor game that night against, I think it was against
Geelong.
Geelong,
when
that's
Taylor
right.
Hunt got off.
Yeah, Taylor Hunt kicked 3. And ever since then, he had 9 tackles in West Coast, and he's continued on, and he's actually responded to the criticism, and that's what you want. You don't want Jack smashing the TV, but. The rest of it is he has been super, and his leadership in the last 3 or 4 weeks has been superb.
He's been happy to talk about it. You know what I'm getting a sense? It's only 6 weeks into his captaincy, Sellers, and you know what it's like. There's extra expectation, pressure comes with the position, but just looking at him, I get the impression that it's actually sitting pretty comfortably with him. He didn't look like he got rattled by the criticism. I reckon Mickey's been fantastic for him. I'd love to know what sort of relationship the captain and the coach are developing between one another.
I watch it very closely. I watch him with Collingwood, Mick, and how he handles his players, and the ones who are bruised by the outside world. He just picks them up.
I reckon
gives them a cuddle.
Yep.
And he's right with you. I'm supporting you. So you give me what they asked for. They've given you a little guide on what they want. Or what we want. Now you give it to me, and you know what? You'll get the greatest support of all. And I think Mick's very good at that.
Well, he's sitting in the midfield, of course, Mark Murphy and the boys we looked at before of the forward half. There's stuff going. We don't want to get too carried away about everything that's going on at the moment, but there's some. The more these guys, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. The more that these guys play their footy together down back, the better they're going to get. Lachlan Henderson's really starting to emerge, I reckon, now that he's playing some consistent footy, as is Simon White.
White and Jamison and Henderson are becoming 3 really strong defenders.
Walker and Tui.
Yeah, well, Walker's a different style again. He's the one who moves the ball out of there.
They're all starting to play some footy together, Sellers.
Yeah, well, we'll see how they go against St Kilda this week, because this is one that they need to secure. But White has been terrific, understands what he can do. He knows his limitations. We know that Henderson's a really good kick, and you just see by that there that straight on the Waite's hands, and he's very strong body-wise. He didn't have a great opposition last week.
No, it was pretty poor. Yep.
Yeah, that was a pretty poor forward line. But, you've got to practice. That's what it's about, practising to be perfect every time. And you don't have to play against the best all the time, but you can actually build your confidence greatly by what they did the weekend.
Just one quick one before we get off.
before we finish, we looked at the forward line talls, the forward line smalls, the midfield, and then you look at the defence. Starting to shape up okay.
Well, it is, and when you can see you've got Nick Duigan and Jeremy Laidler unable to get into the side at the moment because of guys like Simon White and Walker's roll down there. It's
I'll get their chance. I'll get their chance. Someone will get injured, someone will get hurt.
Remember, if you want to get involved in the show, you can send in your questions and comments via Twitter at #TheBlueprint or email the club with the blueprint in the subject line via blues@carltonfc.com.au. This week we asked you which player has impressed you the most so far in 2013. Now, we've got a VIP respondent here this week, Massimo Madoka, who is a two-time A-League champion player with the Brisbane Roar. And welcome to the show, Massimo, and great to see you're a good Carlton man. He can't go past Garlett, has really become a leader now. Kane Lucas has really stepped up this year. So impressed with both of them. Just a quick comment about that.
Garlett's been, he just doubts himself. And I think that what we've seen is him starting to blossom. He's starting to understand he's not a bad player. And he is a great player. The other one, Kane Lucas, he hasn't got me yet. I like him. I wanted to see him play a lot of games. He's played 4 or 5 or 6 in a row now. I want to see him just improve his decision-making and his foot skills. And don't try and do things you cannot do. Be simple and basic is the key.
Make the tackle very hard to get through. Ross Stewart believes Andrew Walker is in career best form. Michael Jamieson is playing to potential. And Brock McLean deserves a public apology. Now, I'm interested in this because we were both at the Melbourne game and I was sitting in the MCC members, and the Melbourne supporters gave Brock McLean a really hard time every single time near the footy. They've got short memories. He put $10,000 of his own money into a Melbourne money fundraising campaign quite a few years ago. He didn't need to do that, and he did. And if there's any Melbourne supporters watching this, maybe you need to think about that next time Brock McLean runs into your footy team wearing a navy blue jumper with a CFC on the front, because you didn't deserve that.
I just happened to be in the MCC committee room with Goffey and having a little port and have a rug over my knees.
Of course,
but the side of it is that, he is. Walker's probably been outstanding. I think he's been outstanding. Brock McLean, for mine, is a great story. Don't underestimate Brock McLean. He came here, he was broken-hearted, he was injured, he was out of form. Everyone at Carlton gave him away except for Brock McLean. And you know what? Proved them all wrong. I love it. Great story.
It's a great point. Adriano Lamberto reckons that Jeff Garlett stepped up in Eddie's absence and continued that form since he came back. His 1% is a second to none. And Adriano Salerno says Simon White, for him to keep 2 quality defenders out, says a lot about him. So it seems that Jeff Garlett might be the flavour of the month amongst the majority of the Carlton supporters at the moment, and you can understand why.
He's exciting, isn't he?
He is.
Gee, when the ball's in his area and you see him start to move towards it, it's just unbelievable pace.
Isn't belief an amazing thing in a football? I want to watch the Blues in a blockbuster triple treat. It doesn't get any bigger than this. Now, this is a serious call. We know that there's another agenda at the football club, and that is to get to 50,000 members. This 3-game blockbuster membership helps Carlton get to that for only $150. You can guarantee your seat at 3 of the biggest games coming up from the midpoint to the second half of the season: Hawthorn, Collingwood and Essendon. Get into contact with the club. If you're watching this now and you haven't pledged your membership, we need you to. And if you've got Carlton supporters who you know who haven't become a member, we need you to give them a kick up the backside and get them on board. For God's sake, Collingwood's about to tick over 80,000 members, which is unbelievable, credit to them. But for us not to be able to get to 50,000, it's not good enough. That's all we have time for on today's show. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Sellers, I'll see you then.
That'd be great.
Thursday the 23rd of May. Until then, enjoy the footy and bye for now.